Good morning, Europe. Thank you for starting your day with us. Here's a look at Tuesday's top stories.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he could consider stopping his quest to join NATO in exchange for a ceasefire and the withdrawal of Russian troops. Meanwhile, Moscow claims Ukrainian forces are using civilian locations as military facilities after targeting a shopping centre in Kyiv that killed 8. And in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, food is becoming even more scarce as those who haven't fled knuckle down to survive.
Volodymyr Zelensky has said he's willing to consider Ukraine not seeking NATO membership in exchange for a ceasefire, the withdrawal of Russian troops, and a guarantee of Ukraine's security. In a television interview, the Ukrainian president said any final peace deal would need to be validated by the Ukrainian people.
I've told all the negotiating teams that when you talk about these changes, they may be historic, you'll come to a referendum.
US President Joe Biden, meanwhile, has reiterated fears that Russian President Vladimir Putin may resort to using chemical weapons in the conflict.
He's already used chemical weapons in the past, and we should be careful about what's about to come. He knows there'll be severe consequences because of the united NATO front, but the point is, it's real.
Biden's announced he will visit Poland this weekend. On Monday, Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki and Dutch leader Mark Rutte discussed strengthening sanctions on Russia, including a possible blockade of all Russian ships to European ports.
Ukraine peace talks are expected to resume today in a video conference format. Turkey's foreign minister said on Sunday that Russia and Ukraine were near an agreement on critical issues. Reportedly, Turkey is in close contact with negotiators from both sides. In an interview with the Turkish daily Hürriyet, Mevlut Çavuşoğlu said, quote, "We can say we are hopeful for a ceasefire if the sides do not take a step back from the current positions." But it is still not clear what exactly a possible agreement could be founded on. The head of Russia's negotiation team, Vladimir Medinsky, spoke on Friday about progress on 2 points: Ukraine's refusal to join NATO and the country's neutrality. However, Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the head of the Ukrainian president's office, responded on Telegram saying that the statements by the Russian side were only their requests and were aimed, among other things, as he said, at provoking tension in the media. Mr. Podolyak stressed that Ukraine's position in negotiations remains unchanged: ceasefire, withdrawal of troops, and strict security guarantees with concrete formulas. Galina Polonskaya, Euronews from Paris.
This is aerial footage released by Russia's defense ministry. It says these images show the Ukrainian military using a Kyiv shopping mall as an arms depot. That centre was destroyed on Sunday, killing at least 8 people.
We would like to draw the attention of the Western media once again. We have presented absolute evidence of the criminal use by the Kyiv nationalist regime of civilian objects in residential areas and in other cities of Ukraine as firing positions for artillery and rocket systems.
Russia says it struck the shopping centre with high-precision, long-range weapons. Its defense ministry spokesman's claims could not be independently verified. Russia has been accused of targeting civilian areas. This as Ukraine's state emergency services releases pictures of bomb disposal units removing unexploded shells from the city of Chernihiv, some 130 kilometers north of the capital. The city has been subjected to intense shelling since the start of the Russian invasion.
After nearly a month of conflict, the signs and sounds of war are everywhere in Kharkiv. Once bustling streets are empty. Now it's just the mangled ruins that remain. The Russian advance in the northeast is threatening Sumy, Chernihiv and Kharkiv. Each area is being shelled relentlessly. It's impossible to think that just weeks ago, this was a normal city. And as day breaks, hungry civilians queue for necessities. These ladies were asked if they need humanitarian aid.
Of course we need it. All the food shops are closed.
Only one supermarket is open. There is an influx of people. It is unaffordable there.
Underground, the stations of the Kharkiv metro have quickly become thousands of people's homes as they flee the destruction above.
We have been here since the 24th of February. Near our house, the school was on fire. Tanks were on fire. That's why we decided not to go back there. It is cold here. The children are getting sick. They get eye infections. They suffer from cold. They cough, as you can hear.
But even here, in an increasingly desperate situation, hope is not extinguished. A group of poets and musicians have performed underground, raising money for the war effort and raising people's spirits. Meanwhile, on the surface, authorities remain alert about possible threats. They think that this man is a Russian spy. In the fog of war, everyone is unfortunately a suspect. Kharkiv remains under Ukrainian control, but as it continues to be mercilessly pounded, no one knows how long it will be able to hold out.
A caravan of 21 buses leaves Zaporizhzhia for the besieged city of Mariupol, where some 350,000 people have been trapped for almost a month without water and electricity. This convoy, led by the International Red Cross, intends to return with all the seats filled with local people. Meanwhile, fighting is already raging in the streets of Mariupol. In Kharkiv, some 300 kilometres to the north, hundreds of soldiers and volunteers are barricaded up in readiness to repel possible Russian incursions. At every trench and checkpoint there is fear and courage. This Ukrainian officer narrowly escaped Russian shelling.
First, it was really scary. It was deafening. The basement protected me. I can't describe my feelings in words. The fear for my family.
Despite relentless shelling since the start of the invasion, Russia has not yet managed to completely encircle Kharkiv. Authorities say at least 5 civilians have been killed in the latest round of attacks. As Moscow wages another campaign aimed at domestic consumption, Russian soldiers deliver humanitarian aid to the residents of a town in the Kharkiv region.
Around 300,000 people are surrounded in Mariupol, with no electricity, no running water and no heating. Mykola Osichenko, the CEO of Mariupol TV, was in Mariupol when Russia invaded Ukraine. He managed to evacuate to Zaporizhzhia last Wednesday.
People of my age barely ate anything and had very little water. Food and water were prioritized for children and the elderly. A family was evacuated from the left bank to our house, which is in the city centre. The left bank is where the heaviest fighting has been since the beginning. So this family, they stayed in the basement for 5 days. They couldn't leave because the fighting above didn't stop for the entire 5 days. A husband, wife and a 6-month-old baby. They survived only because the mother managed to breastfeed the baby.
But the struggle is far from over, and last Wednesday Osichenko saw thousands of people attempting to leave the city.
Around 2,000 cars left the city that day. There was a small child in almost every car. People were taking with them the most precious thing, and the most precious thing is not even your life, but the life of your child. So all these cars were driving the streets of the city, where very often there are dead bodies of the civilians killed. And all these people were trying to distract their children somehow. Look at the sun, look at mummy and daddy, only so that the children don't look there, only so they don't see the bodies.
As food and medical supplies become increasingly scarce, the scale of the humanitarian crisis in Mariupol can only get worse.